Sandami Bandi and good evening everyone. Good morning for everyone in West Hemisphere. Welcome to the lesson on 7 stages of purification, part 13, Mggamagga-Nanadassana Visuddhi. I'm Emma. I'm the meeting co-host who will be helping Bandi and everyone in today's session. May we invite Bandi to start the teaching, and may we invite the interpreter Bandi to start the translation. Sādhu, Sādhu, Sādhu.
So we will pay homage to the Buddha by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. So last week we have already talked about the basic practice of Vipassana, the discernment of past, present, future. So today we have to start talking about Mggamagga-Nanadassana Visuddhi, the purifications of the paths and non-paths, knowledge and vision. So that means in this purification, we have to start talking about contemplating anicca, dukkha, anatta. So the first 2 steps, discerning mentalities and materialities, this is also called Ditthi Visuddhi, purifications of view. Last week, we have already talked about purifications of overcoming doubt, Kankha-Vitarana Visuddhi. These 2 purifications are basis for Vipassana. Today, Mggamagga-Nanadassana Visuddhi, the purifications of the paths, non-paths, knowledge and vision, is the very beginning of contemplating anicca, dukkha, anatta. So when we are going to contemplate anicca, dukkha, anatta, we must know the object. What are the objects of Vipassana? So in the very beginning, as we have discerned mentalities or materialities, here we will start with contemplating the ultimate materialities as impermanent, suffering, and non-self. This is the first steps we have to do. So as I have explained in the very beginning in my previous talks, as samatha practitioners, we can start with either nama or rupa. But as pure Vipassana practitioner, we must start with rupa, the ultimate materialities. When we are clever or expert in discerning the ultimate reality, then we can start contemplating as anicca, dukkha, anatta. Okay, now we will talk about anicca, dukkha, anatta. Anicca, impermanence, dukkha, suffering, and non-self, anatta, non-self. This is the very beginning, the very first steps of Vipassana. After that, we can also contemplate the ultimate mentality as impermanent, suffering, and non-self. After that, as we have learned before, we can also contemplate ultimate mentalities and materialities as impermanent, suffering, and non-self. This is only Nama Rupa method. Very simple way of discernment. Then again, as we have already studied discerning cause-effect relationship between past and present, present and future, here we can also contemplate the ultimate mentalities and materialities together with their causes as impermanent, suffering, non-self. Last week we have already talked about past and present and future relationship in the purifications of overcoming doubt. We can also use all our previous discernment as the foundations to contemplate that as anicca dukkha anatta. Then again, we also have to contemplate concrete materialities. Okay, when we talk about ultimate materialities here, we must know the concrete materialities. Why do we have to know? Actually, when we are discerning all the materialities, rupas, we must discern all types of materialities, concrete materialities or unconcrete materialities. But when we are going to practice vipassana, going to contemplate as anicca dukkha anatta, it must be only concrete materialities. So what are the concrete materialities? As we have started with 4 elements. Yes, 4 elements are also concrete materialities. Now we have 5 translucency. As we have learned before, eye translucency, ear translucency, nose translucency, tongue translucency, and body translucency. All these translucency are also called concrete materialities. Then again, 7 objects. We can also say 7 objective materialities. Actually, we may have only 5 objects. For example, we have visible objects like color, shape. We can also translate as visible data. Then we also have audible objects like sounds. We have odor, smell. We have taste or flavor. We have a tangible object. In the case of tangible objects, there are 3 elements. That's why here I use as 7 objects. 3 elements means earth element, fire element, and wind element. These 3 elements are called tangible objects. That's why here I use 7 objects. So these are also concrete materialities. Then 2 sex materialities. We have already said these are kamacakalapas produced by karma. So for male, there will be male sex materiality, and for female sex materialities. These are also concrete materialities. Then heart materialities. Yes, we have hearts. These are also heart materialities. We also have to know is when we are contemplating as anicca dukkha anatta. The life faculty. And every karma produced materialities has life faculty. So they are also very important factor of their lifespans or sustaining their life. Then nutritive essence. This is also concrete materialities. So when we know these concrete materialities, then we have to discern all of them one by one in every 6 doors. So, for example, in the iron door, there will be iron translucency and body translucency. In this translucency, together with that translucency, there will be many other materialities. They will arise together. For example, 4 elements: color, smell, taste. Then we can also discern all these types of materialities in the eyes, in the ears, in the nose, in the tongue, in the body, in the mind door. This is called discerning in 6 doors. When we are really going to practice vipassana, we must contemplate every single doors. For example, materialities in eye and door, descend one by one, descend overall. After that, contemplate them as anicca, dukkha, anatta. This is, as we have said before, basics of, because like I say, 4 elements in brief. Actually, I have already explained the one in detail with Sudhi, the purifications of view. In the purifications of view, so I have explained 2 different parts. 4 elements in brief, 4 elements in detail. So here, materialities in 6 doors. This is 4 elements in brief. Then we can also discern all types of rupas. In detail, 4 elements, the materiality in 42 body parts. So, I have already explained 42 body parts in the very beginning of Ditya Visuddhi, the purifications of view. We can also discern all the 42 body parts one by one. Then discern every single rupas in every single body part. Then we can contemplate that as anicca, dukkha, anatta. This is also very beginning of vipassana. This is the discerning ultimate materialities. Not only that, as we have learned in Mahasatipatthana Sutta, when you read Mahasatipatthana Sutta, and at the end of every single chapter, you can find discerning internally, then discerning externally. Even I have explained in the very beginning of Ditya Visuddhi, the purifications of view. The Buddha can discern externally many universes, living beings from many universes. So for about Arahats or Vajjika Buddha, we have limited. Then by ordinary meditators like us, you can only general external namarupas. Now here, we can also use the same things, the same formula. We can contemplate external rupas as anicca, dukkha, anatta. Sometimes we also have attachment to external things. If we know that all the external things are also impermanent, suffering, and non-self, we may have less attachment. We may not have very strong attachment. When we have a weaker attachment, it will be more comfortable for us. That's why we also need to practice all the rupas externally and contemplate that as anicca, dukkha, anatta. Then last week we have already talked about discerning past life causes, and present life causes and future effects. Here also, we must discern all the rupas in this present life as anicca, dukkha, anatta. Then all the rupas in the past as much as we can. That means we have to discern cause-effect relationship between past and present. As we can know our past, then we can contemplate all the rupas in the past we can see, and also discern as anicca, contemplate that as anicca, dukkha, anatta. This is also one of the methods. Then finally, we also have future, present cause and future effect. We can also discern future namarupas as much as we can. Then we can contemplate that as anicca, dukkha, anatta. But here we are talking about only rupa, right? So when we are discerning rupas, we also have to discern all the rupas in the 6 doors, in 42 body parts, internally, externally, present, past, and future. We have to contemplate all these types of rupas, one after another. This is the very beginning of vipassana. Then when we study in Anattalakkana Sutta, second discourse to 5 bhikkhus, in the very early of Buddha's teaching, we can find these 11 categories many times. So, what are the categories? They are present, past, future. I have explained these 3. After that, internal, external. These are also I have already explained all these 5. So in every single aggregate, we must discern these present, past, future, internal, external. That means present materialities, past materialities, future materialities, internal materialities, external materialities. Then inferior materialities, that means compared to other rupas, right? These are inferior, right? By comparing, we cannot inferior or superior. That one is superior, opposite. So we also have like a gross and subtle. These 2 are also opposite. For example, some of the materialities are very easy to know. They are gross. For example, like eye translucency, ear translucency, throat translucency, okay, 5 translucency. These are very easy to know. They are gross. Some of the materialities are very subtle. We cannot know easily. For example, life faculty, sex materialities. These are more difficult to know. Like to the essence, very difficult to know. These are called subtle rupas. Then we also have far and near. Here, far and near doesn't mean the locations. It just means very far from our knowledge, very near to our knowledge. Like ear, 5 translucency are very near to our knowledge, right? As I have said before, like in the subtle, right? It will be like a sex materialities, life faculties, then nutritive essence. All these types of materialities are very far from our knowledge. We have to discern with more effort to know it clearly. So these are called 11 categories of 11 categories. When we are going to contemplate, we must use these 11 categories. Mostly people know mentalities and materialities. In Pali, we call nama rupa. So when we are going to study these 11 categories, we cannot find nama rupa's method. I think it will be easier for you to go and read Anattalakkana Sutta. The second discourse to the 5 bhikkhus, Panchavakya. In the Anattalakkana Sutta, we can find the 5 aggregates. So, we will start 5 aggregates. 5 aggregates. So, for example, like a material aggregate in the present, past, future, internal, external, inferior, superior, gross, subtle, far, and near. Similarly, feeling aggregate, 11 categories. You can find all these things in Anattalakkana Sutta. It's very common and also very well known for practitioners, especially for Buddhists, because this is a very, very early discourse of the Buddha. Then after knowing all these 11 categories of 5 aggregates, we must contemplate them as impermanent, suffering, non-self. So, for example, material aggregates. Material aggregates in the present is also impermanent, suffering, non-self. The material aggregates in the past is also impermanent, suffering, non-self. The material aggregates in the future is also impermanent, suffering, non-self. We must contemplate one by one like this. So altogether there are 165 ways of contemplations. So you can multiply 11 categories, multiplying by 5 aggregates. Right? It will be 55. Then the 55 is multiplying by 3 contemplations. It will be 165 ways of contemplation. So these are very, very basis of vipassana. So from time to time, many people argue about vipassana. No, vipassana must be only in the present. Only in the present, no past, no future. It must be in the present, be present. But when we really go and read in the Visuddhimagga or Patisambhidamagga, we can find all these types of contemplation, 165 ways of contemplation. So that means if we don't talk about the past or future, we're going to have 165. So in brief, this is very basis, very beginning of contemplation. Now we also have many other ways of contemplation according to the meditators. So we have many different types of meditators. Now we have different mind power. We have different background. We have different temperaments. We also have different inclinations. We also have different maturity. According to all these conditions, the Buddha gave different instructions to different meditators. So now we will talk about very common practice in the Samyutta Nikaya. As you have already known that mentalities, there are some meditator, they can know, materiality. There are some meditator, they can easily know the materialities. It's a gross, easier than mentality. That's why they are very easy to discern materialities. But they have many difficulty to discern mentality. For them, the Buddha gave different instructions. So, material, they are very easy to discern material aggregates. That's why material divide into only one thing, material aggregates. Materiality is only one portion for their practice. They have difficulty to know mentalities. So to make it clearer, to make it their vision clearer, then the Buddha will teach them mentalities divided into 4 aggregates. Mentality is actually feeling aggregates. This is also mentality. So in every single mind moment, in the mental process, there's a feeling. The feeling is a leading factor. So all other mental factors will arise together with feeling. That's what we call feeling aggregate. Feeling alone cannot arise. We can emphasize focusing on the feeling. We can also know all other mentalities that arise together with feeling. Then we can contemplate all the mentality as impermanent, suffering, non-self. Then perception aggregate. Perception aggregate is also mentality. In every single mind moment in the mental process, there is perception. It will arise together with many mentalities. That means it cannot arise alone. It will arise together with many mentalities. So we can do some emphasize focusing on perception. We can also know all other mentalities. Then we can contemplate them as anicca, dukkha, anatta. Then formation aggregates. This is also mentality. So when we talk about formation aggregates, you may remember in the very beginning of practice, we also talk about phassa, contact, as the foundations of the first entrance of mentalities. So contact, volitions, or many other mentalities are also called, especially mental factors are called formation aggregates. It will arise together with consciousness and other mentalities. Now we can emphasize focus on all these types of mentalities and contemplate them as anicca, dukkha, anatta. Finally, consciousness aggregates. In the very beginning of Abhidhamma, we have already talked about different types of consciousnesses. So consciousness will arise in every single mind moment in the mental process. It cannot arise alone. It will arise together with other mentalities. And we can also contemplate them as anicca, dukkha, anatta. So that means, although we talk about nama rupas, it also covers 5 aggregates. So it will be different angles, different approach to vipassana. For those who has very clear mentalities and materialities, they can discern easily mentality materialities. But for those who have very strong delusions or very strong illusion or unclear discernment in mentalities, the Buddha recommended them to practice 5 aggregate methods. So you can practically know the first 5 bhikkhus. They also practice 5 aggregate methods. How can we know that? When you go and read Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, the second discourse to the 5 bhikkhus. There you can find the 5 aggregate methods: present, past, future, internal, external, as I have listed out, 11 categories. Also, the Buddha also say materialities, material aggregate. That's why even the 5 bhikkhus, they are very talented, very mature, also very strong persons. They had to practice 5 aggregate methods. So we can understand that they have very clear visions in material aggregates, but they don't have very clear and pure visions in mental aggregates. That's when the Buddha instructed them 5 aggregate methods. So this is the first steps we have to know. So we also have another types of people. They have very strong delusions or very weak vision in materialities, in the rupa. In the materiality, we have to know many different things. So the Buddha also categorized into many different things. For example, material aggregates, materiality were divided into 2. Especially here, we have to divide into 10 actually. Okay, here I will talk about only 2 parts. The first one, 5 translucency. So 5 translucency can divide into 5. For example, eye translucency, ear translucency, nose translucency, tongue translucency, body translucency. These are 5. Now we have 5 objects. In my previous lectures, I talk about 7 objects, right? Here I use 5 objects. So we can say 5 objective rupas. That means color, we can say visual objects, audible objects, odor, also like a flavor, then tangible objects. So altogether 10. The Buddha classify or categorize or divide it into 10. So we must discern, for example, past eye translucency, present ear eye translucency, future eye translucency, internal eye translucency, external eye translucency, like that. We must discern 11 categories of eye translucency, ear translucency, and so forth. So when we talk about 164 ways of contemplation and 5 aggregate methods, yeah, you can imagine how many ways we have to contemplate. Even mentalities, we have 10 different types of discernment. It will be developed, right? Even 5 aggregates, we have 164. Here in this discernment, even in material aggregates, they will be developed. Then again, mentalities. Because the meditator has very clear visions in mentality, what I just used only one thing, mind-based. Then we have many other remaining materialities and many other mentalities, especially mental factors. So that means these are called Dhamma-based. This is called 12-based method. So that means for those who have very weak in discerning materialities, and they have very strong discernment in mentalities, the Buddha will instruct them 12-based methods. So materiality can divide into 10. Mentality purely 1 base, and also mixture of all remaining mentality are Dhamma based. So this is called 12-based methods. When you go and read in Samudra Nikaya or in Majjhima Nikaya, like Venerable Rahula. When Venerable Rahula was 20 years old, he was fully ordained as bhikkhu. At the time, the Buddha instructed him to practice this method. For example, like there is eyes and translucency, there will be visible objects. There's a contact between this. After that, there will be consciousness. There will be feeling. Then the Buddha recommended him to contemplate all these things as anicca, dukkha, anatta. So there are many other bhikkhus like that. In brief, if the meditator has very weak in discerning materialities, very powerful discerning in mentalities, the Buddha will instruct them 12 base methods. Then we have the last group. So there are some meditators. Their perfection is not very strong. Their maturity is also not very powerful. They are very weak in discerning materialities and discerning mentalities. So that means their insight knowledge is very poor in both nama rupas. Then the Buddha recommended them to practice 18 elements method. So as we have listed out before, 5 translucency are 5 elements. Eye elements, ear elements, nose elements, tongue elements, body elements. Now we also have 5 objective materialities. The visible object is also one element. Sound and audible objects is also one element. Smell or the odor is also one element. The flavor, the taste is also one element. The tangible object is also one element. Altogether 10 elements. Then what about mentalities? It will divide into many different groups. For example, 5 sense consciousness. That means eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, and body consciousness. These 5 sense consciousness divide into 5 elements. Then we have phyto-advertent consciousness, also receiving consciousness. These two are called mind elements. Then finally, all other remaining consciousness we call mano-vijnana dhatu, mind consciousness element. Okay, just name. We just give different name. Okay, briefly we can understand 5 sense objects are 5 elements. Then phyto-advertent consciousness and receiving consciousness are another element. All remaining consciousness are another element. Altogether 7 elements. Then finally, mentalities and materiality together. All other remaining mentalities and materialities are Dhamma elements. This is called 18 elements method. So that means if a meditator is very weak in discerning both nama and rupas, the Buddha will instruct them to practice 18 elements method. So that means the Buddha will not give the same instruction to everybody according to their maturity, their temperament, their inclinations, their maturity, or their perfections. The Buddha give different instructions. So these are very popular methods. When we go and read in Nikayas, we can find many different methods like that. Not only that, we can also have other methods. Some methods are already mentioned, For example, 6 doors. I have already explained 6 doors in the very beginning of this talk. 6 door method. Then 6 objects method. So 6 doors are also the object of Vipassana. 6 objects are also the object of Vipassana. After that, 6 consciousness. Then here we have 6 contacts. Then we have 6 feelings. Okay, here I have to introduce all these things because we were going to use many 6 like this. So 6 doors, we have eye doors, ear door, nose door, tongue door, body door, and mind door. Altogether 6. Similarly, objects. We have visible objects for eye doors that can impinge on the eye door. We have audible objects that can impinge on the ear door. We have audio, right? The smell objects that can impinge on the nose door. We have the flavor objects that can impinge on tongue door. We have tangible objects that can impinge on body door. We have many mind objects that can impinge on mind door. So 6 doors. Image on the 6 objects image on 6 doors. But there are also 6 consciousness. As we have known, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness. After that, all the many other things are also rising in the mind door. We can like a Mano Dhatu or Mano Vijnana Dhatu, one of them. The 6 contacts, eye contacts, ear contacts, nose contacts, tongue contacts, body contacts, also mind contact. 6 feeling, it will be the same. The feeling that arises depending on eye contacts, the feeling that arises depending on ear contacts, and so forth. Then again, 6 perceptions, it will be the same. The perception that arises because of eye contact, ear contact, and so forth. Then volition, it depends on the doors. There can be different volitions. Similarly, craving, different types of craving that will arise in different doors according to their impingement. Now we have 6 initial application. Here we also say 6 types of thoughts. Because here we have talked about vitakka, right? Thoughts of the color and so forth, right? There can be different types of thoughts. That's why we also say vitakka, 6 types of vitakka. Rupa vitakka, thoughts of the visible objects. Sada vitakka, thoughts of sound or audible objects, and so forth. Similarly, here we have 6 sustained application. This is also called vichara. Rupa vichara, sada vichara, it depends on the 6 doors. Then 6 elements, rupa dhatu, sada dhatu, and so forth. After that, we also have 10 kasinas. Actually, in the samatha, I have already talked about 10 kasinas. 10 kasinas are concepts. But when we can discern 4 elements in the kasina, we can also know the ultimate reality, the materialities on it. Then we can also contemplate that as anicca dukkha anatta. We can also discern jhana dhamma as anicca dukkha anatta. Then 22 faculties is too much. Although here we say 22 faculties, it cannot be all, right? It's really too much. Okay, then we have 12 factors of divine origination. Actually, there are many other remaining objects, many other different methods. Because of the time limited, I cannot explain all types of practice. Anyway, as long as you can understand, we have many different methods taught by the Buddha to different people, it's good enough. Then the next one is very common in Buddha's teaching. Like you may have known sometimes some meditator, they will say, Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta, Asubha. Asubha means reversiveness. How can we know that? For example, Asubha. So in the Samatha also we have Asubha. In Vipassana also we have Asubha. In the Samatha, I have already explained the meditator must choose his own sex. He must not choose opposite sex. So that means a male meditator must choose male corpse. A female meditator must choose a female corpse. Now we must practice reversiveness meditation, seeing it. This is in Samatha. In Vipassana, we can use any dead body. The male also can choose female corpse or male corpse. Then female also can choose male corpse or female corpse. We must see that as repulsive. After that, we must discern 4 elements in the corpse. So if we can discern 4 elements in the corpse, it can be temperature produce materialities. There can be some karma produce materiality because there are many other insects in the corpse. Then whatever materiality we see in the corpse, we must contemplate that as anicca, dukkha, anatta, asubha. Then how can we understand as asubha? We have here dukkha, bad smell. In the corpse, sure, the corpse has bad smell. But now in modern community, I think they use special coffin, that's why not that much smelly. If we just keep it naturally, within 1 day, it will become very smelly. If very hot, second day, it will be very terrible smell. This is called dukkha. Then asuci, impure. This body is full of impurity. We have to wash every day. We have to take a shower because asuci, impure. If we are pure, we don't need to take a shower. So we can also know because of impurity, impure, this is also asubha. Then vyadi, sickness. We have a lot of sickness, this is also asubha. Then the next one is jara, aging. This is theta stage. Because of say standing stage. In every single rupa kalapas, there are 3 sub-moments. Rising stage, theta stage, and perishing stage. Here jara means aging in English. But here it refers to theta stage or standing stage of ultimate materialities. Then the last one is marana, death. That means perishing stage of ultimate mentalities or materialities. So by seeing all these things, or one of these things, we must contemplate asubha materialities as anicca, dukkha, anatta. They are arising and perishing very rapidly. That's why it's anicca. I have already talk about rise and variation very rapidly in the mental process. Within one finger snaps, million times of mentality can rise million times, rise and vary million times. So that means they rise and vary very rapidly. That's why they are anicca. So mostly people think anicca means after a few minutes or it changing is anicca, after a few hours changes anicca, not like that. It's even every nanosecond, there's a changing, there's a rising and perishing. That's why we say it's anicca. So anicca is not that simple, right? Mostly we know impermanence. We easily use impermanence, but not that simple. When we can know momentary rise and apparition of nama rupas, we can know anicca clearly. Okay, these are descending asubha. Then we also have many other methods. The knowledge of comprehension. So today we have already talked about the knowledge of comprehension. In the insight knowledge, the purifications of view is called nama rupa parikaha jnana. That is discerning nama and rupa. Then second steps, the purifications of overcoming doubt. This is called paccaya parikaha jnana, the knowledge of apprehending causes. But now today, the Mggamagga-Nanadassana Visuddhi, that one is actually the knowledge of comprehension. In these steps, in this stage, we have many different methods. So there is mentalities and materialities in the mental process. We have to contemplate that as anicca dukkha anatta. We call nama rupa method. Then we also have the 5 aggregates and the mental process. I cannot explain all the previous things. So you can also understand 12 base methods here, 18 elements method here also. After that, the dependent origination method. Here we have many different types of descendant dependent origination. So very common one is descending cause effect relationship. After that, contemplate as anicca dukkha anatta. This is common. Then sometime without descending, without contemplating anicca dukkha anatta, we can also descend cause effect relationship. This is also dependent origination. So anyway, we can also have another one. That was it. Dependent origination patterns. For example, like avijja is also impermanent. Sankhara is also impermanent, like that. This is also one of the methods. So we have many different descendants of dependent origination. I cannot explain all the things here. It will be very messy and very complicated for the new practitioners or new learners. But here we have the 40 ways of contemplation. We also say 40-to. 40-to means we have 10 types of descending as anicca. That means different definitions of anicca. 10 different definitions of anicca. So in every aggregate, we must discern 10 different ways of anicca. It will be very messy, that's why I don't list out. Then we have 25 different ways of dukkha. We have to contemplate material aggregates in 25 ways of dukkha. Now we also have 5 different contemplations of anatta. That means we have 5 different names of meanings of anatta. Actually, there are many sub-meanings of anatta. So we must contemplate all the different contemplations of anicca, dukkha, anatta. Yeah, I have said 14 ways. 40 ways means 10 anicca, 25 dukkhas, and 5 anatta. Altogether 40. Now we have 7 ways of discerning materialities. We call in Bali rupa sataka. It will be many different discernments. So for example, I will just introduce, right? I'm going to explain all the 7. It will be very difficult for the new practitioners. For example, like discerning materialities from the jhati, river-linking moment, to chuti, the 10th moment. So we must discern rupas from river to death in one life. Similarly, we must discern all the rupas from river to death in our first past life, second past life, like that. Similarly, feeling in reverse to death. You can discern all these things like this. If we summarize namas from very beginning of this life to the death, right? This is also one of the ways to discern. But here we just talk about rupas. That's why this is 7 ways of discerning materialities. So from river to death. After that, we can also divide into 3 periods of the life. The first age, the second age, the last age. All the maturity in the first age will arise in birth there. They're going to arise in the second age. They're going to arise in the third age. So just parts by parts. We can also discern all rupas, then contemplate them as anicca, dukkha, anatta. So there are many other ways. Okay, so there are 7 ways of discerning mentality like that. Then the next one is the 7 ways of discerning mentality. So in the mentality also we have many different methods. For example, I have to introduce here because sometimes we also have to know all the rupas are also anicca. The inside knowledge is also anicca. We have to know 2 different steps, right? Rupas is also anicca. All the 7 ways rupas are also anicca. So this 7 ways rupas is known by inside knowledge. The inside knowledge is also anicca. 2 steps, discernment. In this way, we can also contemplate up to 11 steps. For example, like breathe. The first mind moments, the first mental process will know rupas. It will contemplate as anicca, dukkha, anatta. The second mental process will know inside knowledge as anicca, dukkha, anatta. The third one will know the second one. Then the fourth one will know the third, like this. We can discern many different steps of inside knowledge as anicca, dukkha, anatta, like that. So in brief, there are 7 ways of discerning mentalities. Okay, so it will be too much for new practitioners. That's why I don't explain in detail. So these are the brief instructions of the knowledge of comprehension. We call in Pali Sammasana Jnana. So these are very basis of vipassana, very basis of contemplating anicca, dukkha, anatta. So today, this is the first part of Mggamagga-Nanadassana Visuddhi. But next week, we have to continue the second part of Mggamagga-Nanadassana Visuddhi. So may you all be able to practice the teaching of the Buddha as instructed by the Buddha. And may you all be able to realize the final cessation and not suffering as you wish. Sādhu, Sādhu.
问南米Sādhu.
Mhm.
Yeah, Sādhu. First question is regarding the story, the Jataka story told by Sādhu in the last week about the elephant offering fruits to the Pacceka Buddha.
Mhm.
And this elephant, when he offered this fruit to the Pacceka Buddha and wish
Mhm.
that in his future life he can become a human being. So this wrong understanding
Is not understanding me?
of so on. Sorry, yeah. This avijja tanha upadana means
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Sure.
does it
So that, okay.
do they happen after the sankhara of offering food?
Mhm.
And when the meditator discern paticca first method, because of avijja paccaya sankhara,
Mhm.
then does that mean avijja and the sankhara that's going to lead to the future life, patisandhi, are they a group of causal relationship? Okay, I make it more simple. Means do avijja tanha sankhara happens after the kusala sankhara?
Mhm.
No, avijja tanha upadana happen after the kusala sankhara. And then second part is avijja and sankhara, are they a group of causal relationship?
Mhm. We understand Kara, okay. Oh, one more thing here, right? We cannot say avijja is Sankara arrives first, then the Tanha arrives later. We cannot say like that, right? Sometimes Tanha can arise earlier than Sankara. For example, the case of elephants. We cannot know exactly. She wants to be a human being. This is her first wish. After that, she offered. So craving or avijja, Tanha, upadana arise first. After that, offering second, later. This also can happen. So that means avijja, Tanha, upadana is the cause, sankhara is the effect. We can say like that. We can, as you say now, group of cause and group of effect. We can say like that.
And Sādhu, this question I think Sādhu have answered last week according to the ability to know the past life of other beings. Does the Buddhas knows the past life of other beings through the abhinya without having to see their nama rupa or without using nama rupa method? And the same questions goes for Pacceka Buddha, Aggasavaka, and Mahasavaka. Do they need to go through, need to use nama rupa method to see past life or just abhinya?
Actually, they must try to see nama-rupas of the past lives, not because of inside knowledge. When they are inside knowledge, they can know the past lives. Okay.
Sorry, just now the question have not finished. The number third, how about this Sukha Vipassana Arahata? Do they have the ability to see the past life of other beings?
Actually, they may not have this kind of ability to see other living beings. Okay. Next question.
And Pacceka Buddha, Aggasavaka, and Mahasavaka, by their abhinya, how many past life of other beings can they see?
Okay, so according to their perfections, for example, like the Practical Buddha, they have to fulfill the parami, 2 asankhya and 100,000 errands, right? That's when they can see up to 100,000 errands, 2 asankhya and 100,000 errands. What about whenever Sariputta, 1 asankhya and 100,000 errands, right? That's when they can know. According to their fulfillment, they can know different past lives, the different types of past lives. Okay.
Let me see another question about the Mggamagga-Nanadassana Visuddhi.
Mggamagga-Nanadassana.
Yes, it says if a meditator, he can discern only the first past life, and without discerning second, third past and so past life and so on. And by doing that, if from the first past life, he can see that this present life, Nama Rupa, as a human being, and also can see the 5 past courses of past life. But he could not know in the past how long has he lived and other details of past life. So in this case, only by seeing one life, he can understand. Sorry, Pandey. Only by seeing one life, he can understand samsara is only because of karma and kilesa. And so this Mggamagga-Nanadassana, in this way, by seeing only one life, does that mean this meditator have already passed Mggamagga-Nanadassana Visuddhi?
Actually, we have already mentioned in the list of doubts, right? About the 5 doubts. After being born, what I was being born, right? Let me. What's our next path? The second path, like something like this. That's why at least you must know this present life, the first past life, or the second past life, at least, to overcome all types of doubts. So in Power Toya, mostly we recommend at least 5 up to first past lives. Okay? So to make it sure, we must know a little bit more.
And then Miss Yadu, you would like to ask for Vedana Khanda, how to discern this gross subtle means gross subtles and supreme, inferior, superior, and far and near, according to the 11 groups of the 11 groups of discernment.
Okay, this one is a little bit simple. For example, like among the feeling, gross. For example, like the suffering, right? Dukkha is very gross, you know already. Sukha or ubekha is very subtle, you know already, right? For feeling, this is very simple to categorize. About inferior and superior, for example, akusala and kusala, unwholesome and wholesome, we can know inferior and superior. Near and far, sure, sometimes it's easy to know, sometimes difficult to know. It depends on the conditions. Okay, we have 11 categories.
This question about the discernment of emphasizing of Sankhara Khanda. Just as the other say, Sankhara Khanda can emphasize on Asa Cetasika. His question is why emphasizing on Asa Cetasika? Why not Cetana, Cetasika, Moha, Tanha, Ditthi, and so on?
Okay, so that means we have 3 different entrances of Nama. You may remember the one, feeling, and also consciousness, and Phassa, contact, right? We have 3 entrances. So that's why I just talk about Phassa. Actually, you can also use, as you say, it can also Jirana, also can be Moha, also can be, it doesn't matter. The main thing is that you must know all the mentalities that arise together with that. Okay?
Anamisia, though, is one question in the chat room. In the Mahasavaka, in the name list of Mahasavaka, are they Sukha Vipassana Arahata? Any Sukha Vipassana Arahata being the Mahasavaka?
Mahasavaka cannot be, right? Mahasavaka, okay, mostly in the Mahasavaka, they have the psychic power. They have analytical knowledges mostly. That's why it cannot be Sukha Vipassana. Okay?
Sādhu, Bendy. Thank you very much for your teachings today, and thank you, our interpreter Bendy, for your translation. May we invite Bendy to lead us in making aspirations and the sharing of merits.
Okay. Ittavata ja amehi sambadam punya sambadam sabbe deva numodandu sabbe buddha numodandu sabbe saddha numodandu sabba sambati siddhiya idam me nyatinam hotu sukhita hondu nyateyo idam me nyatinam hotu sukhita hondu nyateyo idam me nyatinam hotu sukhita hondu nyateyo idam me punyam asavakaya vaham hotu idam me punyam nibbanasa pateyo hotu mama punya bhagam sabba satanam bhajemi te sabbe me samam punya bhagam labantu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Bendy, and everyone, for your time and participation. Till we meet on next Saturday, may all be well and happy. Sādhu, Sādhu, Sādhu.